Hi, welcome to AuthorTalk. I'm your host, Jim Dorman, and today we're very excited to have our guest author, Andrew Botieri. Give you a little bit introduction to Andrew. After more than 35 years as a successful entrepreneur and business leader, Andrew has transformed his lifelong passion for storytelling into a second career as an acclaimed author and inspirational speaker. A nationally recognized executive and turnaround specialist for an advertising publishing company, Andrew built his reputation on a strong work ethic and dynamic leadership as a sales trainer, inspiring professionals across industries with his humor, energy, and practical insights. His book, The Magical Espresso Machine, a heartfelt and imaginative novel bridging generations, continents, and lifetimes through the power of eternal love, family, and connections to the past. The book is now available in hard and softcover at andrewbotieri.com, and Kindle editions are available through Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and at local retailers. Welcome to AuthorTalk, Andrew Botieri.
Thanks, Jim.
And congratulations on the book. I really enjoyed reading it.
Thank you. And perfect timing, going off to Italy yourself.
That's right. I just got back from Italy, so it was kind of a good primer for me.
Perfect.
And especially reading about the first section of the book was so good. How did you come up with the idea for this this book?
And I keep going back through my mind, but it was sort of like, right after COVID. There was still that down period, and I'm back here after being 18 years between the Southwest, Southern California, Northern California, and I think at some point everybody goes to this, what if?
Yeah.
What if I never went out west
right.
and met all the incredible people, had all the incredible business experiences and successes that I've had, and then I started to think, well. What if my grandparents never met? How would I be? I'd probably still be here, but maybe in a different body, a different form, a different energy, a different soul.
Right.
And then that jumped to, well, what if my great-grandparents didn't ever meet? And Generosa and Cesare, who happened to be the two characters in the first half of the book in Italy. And so all of a sudden, when I started to think that, this story in my mind just started to unfold.
Mm-hmm.
I kind of think about it as almost divine intervention. I was getting all these thoughts and ideas and started doing some mind mapping of how I wanted the book to be laid out. And lo and behold, I had the whole story. And of course, they grew up in Italy in the late 1800s, but I brought them into the the early 1900s during World War I. Where it's a fictional, historical love story, and had to do a lot of research on World War I in Italy, which was fascinating.
Right.
Just to, at that time, up until 1861, Italy really wasn't even a country.
Yeah.
It was a bunch of little city-states, and they all, had walled cities, so they would protect themselves because there was no government, national government to protect themselves. So if you go to Italy like you had been, you see, whether it's, Rome, Florence, Venice, Bologna, Milan, Naples, you'll see all these crumbled walls on the outskirts of the cities, and those used to be their fortresses.
Yes.
So it just really was so intriguing. Plus, with my Italian heritage, it just really, gave me an opportunity to really see what Italy was all about. And they were always under attack. I mean, from Hannibal to Napoleon, they were always in turmoil. So
Wow.
just amazing that for the thousands of years that Italy's been there, it was really only a unified government. After 1861.
Yeah. So that was part of the thing. The trip that I took was learning that it's such a young country.
It is, and they still have the turmoil
right.
Going on. But then again, what country doesn't?
Yeah, it's also neat to kind of think of how peaceful things are, and maybe this is where some battles took place.
Yeah. And if you were saying the places that you were when you visited, especially Rome.
Right.
Rome was constantly under attack.
Right.
and in what was it, 44 BC, when Caesar was assassinated, and that was just turned the whole government at that time, imperial government, upside down. So it's just, again, their history has just never been an easy one.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing to be like right there where he was buried. Or
in old Rome.
Yeah, in old
Yeah.
Rome. Was any kind of indication of, in doing like research that, I guess maybe you said you changed the years, but that some of the events that might have actually taken place, with any of your family members? Or?
Actually, the only, not really. What I wanted to do was make the historical part of World War I is very accurate. Obviously, I read a lot of books on World War I and the locations that they were in. They did do conscription, which comes to play in the book with Caesar, which is Cesare in Italian. But what I was really trying to do, and at the very front of the book, is when you were reading it, I put together a family tree,
yes.
because between Italy and then jumping to Plymouth, I wanted to make sure that people weren't confused about how people and names and everything jumped from decades into the new decades. But what I was really trying to do was honor my family over there, which I still keep in touch with. Matter of fact, I'll be going back next year to visit, and to make sure that that heritage, that I was honoring that heritage. So even though I used the first names of actual living relatives, I've changed their last names to other last names, but within the same family. So the Trocchis became the Botieris became the Trocchis.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting. Could you give for our viewers maybe just kind of an overview of the kind of the story and the structure?
Yeah. Well, so both Caesar grows up, of course, in a rural area. North of Bologna is two towns that my families are from. Well, from Bologna, Cento, and Renazzo, and they were all farmers. And they lived in rural parts of Renazzo, and they grew, vegetables, produce, raised livestock for slaughter, and had goats to make goat milk, and I mean everything. And they also had hemp. They were huge hemp farmers, which eventually led to the migration of Italians from that Bologna area, Cento, Renazzo, in the late 1890s. To Plymouth, Massachusetts, to all work at the Cordage Company, which was the largest producer of rope, and hemp is the strongest natural fiber in the world. So it made sense that they would bring them out to Plymouth to be able to manipulate and work the hemp. So Caesar, and he meets this, he was 12, and he meets this little, as he called it, a pain in the butt, Generosa, because she was very outspoken, especially for a little Italian girl, and very bold. And they meet at 12 and 11, and they start this, courtship. That when they got into their teens, and they were, back then when you went out, you had to have an escort. There was no like today where you just go off to the movies or no, you had to have a family member there present, and so. They met at her uncle Angelo's cafe. There was a photographer there, and he took their picture. And this sort of starts the mystique or the mystical part of the story. So they're at the cafe at the counter, and the photographer wants to take a picture of them. So they're in the forefront. In the background is an espresso machine. So they take pictures, and they're all excited. And so Caesar goes back a couple weeks later to get the final photographs, and there's the photo of the two of them, and he was all excited because he was, even though he kept telling people we were just friends, deep down he was in love with this girl. But there was a blue smear or smudge around the outside of the photograph, and back then it was all black and white. And the photographer was baffled. And he goes, well, I must have overexposed it. So that theme of the blue haze, the blue light, goes throughout throughout the whole book. And as you see from the cover of the book, that and that happens to be the Warren Building in Plymouth. You can see the blue light emanating from the window.
Yeah.
Because that's where the espresso machine eventually ends up.
Right.
Generosa in Italy has her own cafe. Her uncle gifts her that espresso machine for her cafe, and then upon her passing in the 1980s, that espresso machine makes its way to Plymouth, to a cafe which the other character in the Plymouth story takes on, and that sort of follows that whole line of that story.
Wow. Well, I have visited. It's the Warren Building.
Yes.
And it was late at night too. So
okay. Did you see
I got a little
light?
bit of the ethereal feel of, because I had already read the book, when I did it. But
yeah, and so then it jumps to 1970 in Plymouth.
Right.
And the reason I live in Plymouth, but my real great grandparents, Generosa and Cesare, though in the book they're fictional characters. I just use their real names.
Okay.
That they actually emigrated to Plymouth in the 1890s, and my mother's side of the family, which is English, were descendants of William White, who was one of the first passengers on the Mayflower. So both my families from Italy and England got their first start in America in Plymouth.
That's crazy.
So I sort of have this very spiritual connection to Plymouth.
To Plymouth.
So then it jumps into the 1970s. There's this girl born of Donato and Betty Ann, who are actually characters of my parents, Don and Betty Botieri. And they have a little daughter called Marie, who is a sort of loosely characterized after my sister, Karen, whose middle name is Marie. And again, I wanted to honor my family here as well as the family in Italy, just out of respect and all that they've done for me, especially when I was sick over the past 5 months, and how everybody pulled together for my healing. And so she ends up having a daughter by the name of Jacelyn. Again, Jacelyn is a fictional character. Jacelyn is actually the name of a daughter 35 years ago that I told myself, if I ever had a daughter, I was going to name her Jacelyn.
Wow. Yeah.
Never had the daughter.
Okay.
So I brought her to life in the book.
Yeah. Awesome. Yeah.
And I have a 4-year-old great nephew, Owen, who I watched his mannerisms, his speech. So by watching him, it helped me create her dialogue, Jacelyn's dialogue, when she was talking to adults. So it was pretty cool.
Yeah, very cool. I enjoyed reading the entire book. And you mentioned the health challenges. Could you tell us a little bit about that?
Well, I have a autoimmune disorder called scleroderma, and I've had it since 1999. And it's a connective tissue disease. It affects roughly 300,000 people, and I have what's called systemic scleroderma, and it can also affect not only your outside, which literally scleroderma means hard skin. So your body overproduces collagen, and then that collagen gets in the low density areas of your body, and it starts to harden. And so, like my fingers, my skin's very tight, and some people get it so bad that their fingers actually curl in. Luckily, that never happened to me. But systemic, it also goes internally, and in 2000, it shut my kidneys down, and I almost died in an emergency room in Phoenix. I was in a coma, came out of the coma, spent 6 months on dialysis, which then led to sort of reevaluating my whole corporate life. I was a workaholic, had just taken a successful .com company public. It was called allapartments.com, one of the first companies that you could actually go online to search for an apartment.
Wow.
Now, everything we do, you go online for. And that was only in 1998, so it wasn't that long ago.
No. Yeah.
And now everything is online. Matter of fact, I had written a book about that called A Celebration of Life, A Story of Hope, A Miracle, and the Power of Attitude. That's also available on my website and on Amazon and Kindle as well. And everything was going fine until about 2015. Started working out. I've always been athletic, so I was working out and just always found myself winded. And I'm like, this is really strange. Went to my pulmonologist that I was seeing, and he goes, yeah, you've got some cellular issues with your lungs. And then in 2018, I was diagnosed with fibrosis, or what they term interstitial lung disease. And then by 2020, 2020, I was actually then on supplemental oxygen only when I did activities, climbing stairs, working out, and then went to Italy and UK and did Normandy in 2023 with my sister and my brother and his family. I came back in October of 23 and realized how exhausted I was, and called my doctor, and I said, because he kept telling me that we're going to have to do a lung transplant, and I kept putting it off. Being the macho Italian, and so I finally said, let's it's time to consider it. So I went through 2 years of evaluation at Mass General. October 2nd of last year, I got listed, so I had to get a dual lung and kidney transplant. The book had come out, the Magical Espresso Machine. We had booked events. My first one was going to be in Hanson, which we ended up canceling that because by November 18th, I got the call, and they had found a donor, my donor Ralph, who I've actually spoken to the family, which was so powerful. And on the early morning of the 19th of November, on a Wednesday, 12:30 a.m., they started the first lung. Called my brother at 4 a.m. We got the first lung in. We're going to do the second one. They called back at 7:30. They said a.m. We got the second lung in. We're going to let him rest for a little bit. And then they called him back at 10 a.m. And they said, we've got the kidney in, and we'll be bringing him up to ICU in a few hours. Spent 52 days in the hospital between ICU on Blake 12 in Mass General, then down to Blake 6, then to Spalding Rehab in Cambridge, and got released on January 9th. And matter of fact, this coming Sunday will be 5 months post-transplant. And the doctors are amazed, I'm amazed. God be praised that I am feeling so incredible.
Awesome.
And there's been no rejection, no infections. Just amazing.
That's great. So good to have you here. We
good
had
to be here.
Good to see you here. We had a show scheduled right at the time that you found out that you were going in. So so it's great to a few months later have you here and looking great.
I think I had to text you like real slowly on my phone, which my brother had, because I couldn't really see that well. I couldn't even talk.
Oh gosh.
And I remember texting you, and then letting Michelle McGrath know as well, who helped coordinate a lot of this, that I'm going to be out of action for a while. But glad to be here.
But we'll schedule it in a few months, you say. So optimistic, and so it's great. I'm glad we're here, and I'm glad to see you.
Unbelievable.
Yeah, it's a current story, and so people, should go out and check out your first book too.
And as I tell people, the second book was really was a labor of love, as any writing does, any passion that people have. But I didn't want to be sitting around thinking about having to have a lung transplant. I mean, I went through bouts of depression as it was when I first decided to do it. And so the book really gave me a purpose every morning to get up. It gave me a reason to get up, and kept me focused on writing the book versus, lamenting what I was going to have to go through. And so it really helped me kind of, again, just keep my mind just on that and not have to worry about, because, when they describe what the lung transplant's going to be, it's just like, you got to be kidding me. And as I like to quote the late, great Jerry Garcia, what a long, strange trip it's been.
Well, a bit of a deadhead right here.
Okay, yeah.
I saw his last show at the Boston Garden. They never did because he died before the next.
That's right. I died on tour.
They were supposed to come and close the old Boston Garden.
Yeah.
In October of whatever, 95 or something like that, and that's when he died in August. Well, that's an amazing story.
It is.
When did you write? When did you actually write the book, though?
Well, I started having the idea. I was doing some mind mapping because I knew I wanted to write a book, and then after I thought about my great grandparents, if they never met, what would that story be like? So I had sent Claudia Gare, who was my editor for my first book. I sent her sort of a rough outline of what I wanted to do, and that was probably in the spring of 2022. So she was on vacation. I believe she was in Europe. She got back. She goes, "I love this idea." So I started to probably write it in the summer of 2022, and then and I would write for a while, and then not write for a while, then I'd write for a while, but then in November of 23, when I had made the decision, along with my family, to have the transplant done, that's when I really knew that I needed to focus on the book. Because frankly, there was a chance that I would go on the operating table and not make it.
Right.
I mean, as morbid as it sounds, or the last August, I went as far as, and I finished the book probably in April of 25, and then we did just a few rewrites here, and had Jesse, who was the illustrator for the book, did a fantastic job. So we're going back and forth with any edits because he does some of the maps of Italy on the inside. He does a great rendition of the espresso machine in there too, which was awesome.
Yes.
And so then we did a couple back and forth rewrites, and Claudia would say, "Well, do you think we need to expand this section?" Or and she was great to collaborate with. She would say, "Do you think we should do this?" And I would go, "Well, let me think about that." And then I'd come back the next day and I'd say, "Yeah, let's do this and do that." And there'd be other times where she said, "I think we should do this." And I would go, "Nah, I don't want to do that." So it was a great yin and yang, if you would. And that's why it was so great to work with her. So the book actually got published October. I got listed October 2nd of 2025 under the donor list. The book came out October 25th. And that's when we started to do all this planning, with you and Kevin and the different libraries. And then I got the call on November 18th on my way up to pulmonary rehab at South Shore Hospital. As I was telling Kevin on an earlier interview, I was actually passing the Marshfield exit on Route 3 when I got the call. And I pulled over to the side of the road, and the lady said, "Is this Andrew?" And I said, "Yeah." She goes, "Well, we've got your organs." And I had to pull over to the side of the road, and I just started to cry. It was just so emotional.
Yeah, right.
And so I got the book done, but in August, when I knew that I'd be getting on the donor list soon, I didn't want to leave anything to my family to have to deal with if I didn't make it through.
Right.
So I actually went in Hanson, where I grew up, and I planned my whole services at the funeral home. Wrote my obituary. Did all that. Got all my paperwork and done, all my my financial stuff in order. So if anything did happen and I didn't make it, my family didn't have to worry and scurry for anything. So it was very surreal.
Yeah,
but now it's all done. I don't have to worry about it for at least another 20 years.
Good. You can enjoy this book and the response to it, and I just want to say that I really enjoyed reading it. And if we go to the first section 1, back to World War I, or the romance between Caesar and Generosa, I thought was really well done. I think anybody would read that and feel the excitement and maybe that kind of feeling you might have had.
Oh, who wasn't as teenagers?
Right.
When, had our first love.
Right, and someone
And what I was trying to do is then make the connection, because in Plymouth, Marie's grandmother Ida was actually the great niece of Generosa. So that's how that generational moved from Italy to then Plymouth, and then Marie having her daughter Jacelyn, and then Jacelyn really, as in the book, is actually the one through her innocence is actually brings both the old country and Plymouth together, and that very magical and mystical way, which is where I got the name for the book.
Right. And I just don't want to lose the what I thought was really significant for me reading it was the conscription, because I just never really thought of it being that way. If someone that Caesar basically gets taken and his friends, against their will, against their parents' will. It's just my brothers were drafted. We had to get into the system. They weren't drafting anyone by the time I was of age. But anyway, so we know that kind of draft, or conscription. But I mean, they were taken under force with, and in your book, some blunt force.
Yeah, and that was, and that happened throughout Europe.
Yeah,
just wasn't Italy, because the way that war was waged back then, there was really there wasn't a lot of strategy to it. They just sent young men in, and at the end of Italy declared war on Austria-Hungary, I think May 15th, 1914, and it ended in 1918, and there was almost 1 million young men died. Again, almost 1 million that were injured and maimed, and so they were running out of people.
Right.
So you can understand the conscription, but it happened in England. It happened in France, Germany. It happened. So it was just something that sort of the military didn't even think twice about it. And you think about that happening today. Probably I think in maybe in other countries, China, Russia, they probably do that, but thank God it's just very limited.
It makes it real to you. And another thing I saw in Italy was the American cemetery in Florence. So it makes all the about 4,000, I think, Americans there.
4,000.
Not as big as, say, in France, but still.
Well, I did go to Normandy in 23, and to see all those white crosses on this flat land and then the ocean behind it, all you can do is just sit there and get emotional.
Sure.
If you've never taken, that should maybe be one of your next trips.
Right.
Is do the Normandy trip.
Yes, yeah.
I think every American should be able to go to Normandy and really appreciate what sacrifices were made for our freedom that we still have today.
Right. And I think obviously thinking about what the people that lived there went through too, and all the civilian casualties, but also the appreciation for what took place, and even though Italy had been on the Axis side, and you managed to introduce Mussolini into the the story, which I thought was pretty clever. But anyway, it makes it pretty real, especially when you're just kind of having a good time and everything. You think about all the different sacrifices, and I don't think we really know as much about what went on in Italy.
Well, and again, that's why when I before I wrote the book, I read a couple different books on World War I in Italy, and it was just because they were trying to sort of become players on the world stage again, but Austria-Hungary had taken so much of northern Italy from them, and so one way was they wanted to be able to get that land back, and so through them going to war, even though they were actually allies of Austria-Hungary at first, and then realized that that wasn't going to work out, and so it was just fascinating, almost like a chess game, how and then they ended up signing a treaty with England and France, and then turned against Austria-Hungary. So just a lot of that backstabbing that was going on was just fascinating.
It is, and we don't have too much time left to talk today, but I definitely want to also talk about the second part of the book a bit, because I didn't know about some of the history, and it just was great to read about the Italian heritage in Plymouth and the Cordage Rope Company, and then also kind of adding the new American element of the baseball. And kind of assimilation maybe through that. At least I got that a bit, and I just found that part of it just interesting, I guess, and so that was pretty cool.
Well, again, I wanted living in Plymouth and honoring both my families, the Italian side, the English side, but I also really wanted to honor Plymouth because it is such a great little town of like 65,000 people and 100 square miles. It's amazing, but so Plymouth actually becomes a character in the book. You've got the famed waterfront, the fishing and lobstering industry that go out of there. Of course, our Mayflower and our cherished rock, or the pebble, as I like to call it, because everybody goes, "That's it." But there's a big story behind how big that rock really is, and but I wanted to, in using the Warren House, Mercy Otis Warren was back then she was a suffrage advocate and activist. She actually wrote plays on how the Americans should revolt against the English for their own civil liberties and freedom from the British throne. So she was quite the feisty, bold woman who Generosa was like that. Generosa was very bold. And then Marie, when she has her little daughter, Jacelyn, at 5, Jace is also very bold. So I sort of used their characters. And Jacelyn, I used her innocence with my great nephew, Owen. But Jacelyn is the one that really is the connection that brings both families together, and at the end of the book, it's just where all the magic happens. Don't want to give away too much, and it's hard not to. People say, "Well, tell me about the book." I go, "I really can't." So you're gonna have to get out there. You're gonna have to get out there and read the book. But it was really just such an overwhelming effort, and even now when I read the book, 'cause I still go back and read it, I still get very, very emotional about it. And so if you go on my website, andrewbotieri.com or magicalespressomachine.com, it'll link to my website that you can get an autographed copy. I've got hardcovers, which I have on the website, and also the soft cover, as well as the Celebration of Life book as well.
Awesome. Well, people should do that.
Please do that.
People should read it. You know, so many things. The fishing industry as well.
Yeah.
You know, so. Did you have any? Always going to have a kind of supernatural aspect to it from the day you started writing this?
Yeah.
Okay.
And the espresso machine. One, you know, when you go to
Obviously that's
Italy,
the name, but
yeah, when you go to Italy, I mean, it's hard not to, you know, have espresso, you know, cappuccino, and so I make my own homemade cappuccino every morning.
Yeah.
I have my espresso machine. I've got my frother. I import my beans from Italy, so I grind my own beans every morning, and so that's sort of where that whole espresso machine thing came from.
Yeah.
But then when I started to formulate in my mind the story, and it was very, in my mind, it laid out very easily. Of course, then I had to sort of fill in. So I had the beginning of the story, I had the middle of the story, I had the ending of the story, and then it was up to me to then fill everything in.
Right. Okay.
The
nice.
toughest part, I know this is from talking to other authors, is all the character development that went on in describing each character, what they looked like, what their mannerisms were. And that was probably, out of everything I did in the book, that was probably the most challenging.
Yeah.
But it was, so that's where the espresso machine really sort of started to take a life on its own.
It comes together nicely, and the characters were very relatable. And for anyone that also that is into the genealogy, maybe and thinking about only a few generations ago and more recent things, and some of the happy and not so happy things that happen in life. I think that was handled very well. So
well, as I like to tell people that if you're procrastinating about finding out where your family came from. I meet so many friends that said, yeah, I had cousins or my grandparents came or my great grandparents came from Ireland or Italy or whatever. And I say, have you done any research? And they go, well, not really. I said, do you have any names? Well, I got a couple. Then go on Ancestry.com, go onto Facebook and just start searching for people's names. You'll be amazed at how quickly you can connect with a family member. And there's nothing more, I think, spiritual than knowing that you've got family in other parts of the world that have maybe the same mannerisms as you, maybe have the same laugh as you, because I know my grandmother's laugh is the same as my sister, my brother, my cousins all have that same laugh. And I'm sure that my grandmother's laugh was like maybe her father's or her mother's.
Absolutely, yeah.
And because I really believe that connecting our present to our past helps us to move forward through our future.
Excellent. I visited the villages where my great-grandfather was in Ireland, and I know that my great-grandmother, they married over here, but I don't know actually if they met over there or over here. So anyway, so I got a little work to do, but
good.
But anyway, thank you for coming on AuthorTalk.
Thank you.
Andrew Botieri.
Thank you, Jim.
Really enjoyed speaking to you, hearing your story, and talking about your great book. So.
All right, wonderful. Oh, thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
Thanks, and thank you for tuning in today. Thanks to Kevin Tachi and Matt Lyons for behind the scenes. You mentioned Kevin, you were on his WATD show.
Yeah.
He's our fearless leader, executive producer. And thank you for tuning in. Our host, Jim Dorman. I hope you'll join us again on AuthorTalk.